Hi, everyone. Hi, welcome to the Mango Publishing Heart Wisdom panel. And sorry that we're running a little late. The LinkedIn was down and that kind of threw us off a little bit, but we are sure going to have an amazing conversation today. So I would really love to give a big welcome to John Duffy and to Brenda Knight. And hopefully Judy Ford will be joining us shortly. So we are going to be talking about what kids need now. John and I we almost went full force into an amazing conversation right before we went live. So I'm glad that we remembered to stop and come in so that everyone can hear this. So I would just like to, again, just say thank you for being here. John has been doing just for years and years, right? Helping parents, helping young people. And as I was saying to you and Brenda, I think I also should include you in this because John told me this latest book, Rescuing Our Sons, that you played a big role in that too. But what I just wanted to say is like, there's no more important work right now. No more important. And so welcome. John, if you'd like to just give us an introduction, anything that's top of mind about you and your work, we'd love to hear.
Yeah. Let me just tell you a little bit about what I'm seeing these days. And part of the reason that Brenda and I kind of colluded to decide to do this book late last year. All of our kids are going through a lot. I wrote Parenting the New Teen in the Age of Anxiety that kind of lays out all of these stressors that our kids are going under that we're not really familiar with and wasn't part of our childhood or our adolescence. So we're the first generation of parents that are pioneers. We were just talking about this, Sherry, right? We have to learn from our kids what it is that they're going through, and this is upside down from the way we were parenting. So we have to think differently than our parents thought. We can't just parent in the same way because they've got social media stressors and they've got academic stressors way beyond what we had, and body image issues, and this familiarity with emotional disorders and access to drugs and alcohol beyond what we ever pictured back in our day. And that's all of our kids, right? Our boys in particular, and maybe in particular post-pandemic, have reached this element, this point of hopelessness. And it's derivative of the fact that girls have this like emotional intelligence component that's really strong that they carry. And once that pandemic was over, they were back together with each other and they were connected and they were rejoining the things and, involved in extracurriculars, engaged in school, and doing a lot of what they needed to do to find their success again, find their wheels, right? And work their way through their lives. Meanwhile, a lot of our boys lacking the emotional language and the emotional intelligence, not altogether, but enough of it that they were socially anxious in a lot of ways. They were using drugs, especially marijuana, to just calm down, just to not be anxious, socially anxious all the time. They're less likely to be involved now in extracurricular activities. And the whole definition of masculinity, what does it mean to be a man or a boy in this age where we hear toxic next to masculinity all the time, how to navigate that, and whether we even have good role models out there to help us navigate that. So our kids are going through all this stuff. And in brief, and then I'll stop talking, but in brief, the biggest part of the solution is never changing. Like the good news is that the answers aren't that different year to year to year, even though the problems become more and more complicated. The answer is always connect with your kid, build up the emotional bank account with them, try to understand their worlds by navigating them with them, right? So sit down, listen to what they're listening to, watch what they're watching. Your lack of interest in that stuff is not that interesting. So you have to get involved in what your kids are involved in because they're involved in it, and understand what voices are coming through their heads through podcasts and YouTube videos and video games and music and pornography, like all of this stuff is playing in your child's mind all day, every day. And so we need to provide counterpoints and discernment and all sorts of things in order for them to be able to reach adulthood in a really balanced, healthy way. That's tough to navigate. And especially in the wake of a pandemic and parenting through that, I'm asking a lot of parents to come up with a lot of energy to engage with your kid in a new way, right?
Well, thank you all, John. I love that you just summarized that, so well and just so succinctly. And that, again, I just want to underscore what I so appreciate about you is that energy that you're talking about. First of all, you bring, but also the hope. And I want to bring that in right from the beginning, because otherwise I know people are, oh, here's Judy.
Oh,
yay!
I got to the right spot or something. I don't know.
Judy's here.
Oh my God.
Judy, you came in. Let me tell you, you came in just as I said the word hope. So I think there was something
okay.
very, very beautiful about that.
Oh, yeah.
We'll have you introduce yourself in just one sec. John was just sort of laying out a little bit of the what's happening right now and why is it so important that we show up for our kids. So yeah, Brenda, did you want to jump in on anything that John just had said before we have Judy come on and say hi?
I did. So I am a relatively new stepmother of a 20-year-old male and like an 18-year-old girl. And it's like, that's one of the reasons why I was so on fire about John's book. I mean, in addition to saving the future, because it's literally like right off the pages of John's book, Rescuing Our Sons. I mean, like everything. And so I trying so hard to relate. And I think actually trying so hard part might be a little bit of a problem. Like I need to be more relaxed about it. But the one thing that I did right was I said to Paul, his father, I said, we need to watch something on the Disney Channel that your son watches. And so I said, let's watch The Mandalorian. And he was not that enthusiastic about it. But what's really funny is that we got really hooked on The Mandalorian. We fell in love with The Mandalorian, and then talking to his son about it, sort of opened up this whole area. And it was interesting. What I kept saying, don't you think that's interesting that something your son really likes is now our favorite thing? I said we should ask him for recommendations and take cues from him, about what he likes and why he likes it. And so I just thought I sort of felt yes, John is right. Just talk to them on their level. What are they into? For us, it opened up this fascinating pocket of something we love. And of course, who doesn't love Baby Yoda? But it was really so yes, try the steps in John's book.
I love that.
It will help you.
I love that. And I just want to underscore too, John has helped me so much because, right, you've been on panels before with the previous book. And you just nailed it, Brenda, by saying that, right? It's it's not, I think it's both and John can speak more and Judy, but it's the connection piece, but also confidence, right? I think John speaks to this a lot in his new book about that, to celebrate them. And I think when we take an interest in what they're interested in and we ask for their, teach me about this or tell me about that, it helps boost that confidence and celebration. I don't know. I'm just so excited by this.
Yeah. And I think I'll just throw one thought in. Yes. And there's also this idea of showing some confidence in them, right? I love your story, Brenda, because it's okay, we don't know if we're going to like The Mandalorian, but you were open to it, right? I love the idea of parents and step parents and any caretakers being open to being surprised, because I've been starting my talks lately by saying I've worked now, I did the math on this. Over 25 years, I've worked with 500 teenagers, and I haven't run into one where I thought, I loved all other 499, but this one, not so much. Like this one, this one I don't really care for. They're all remarkable in their own way. And our job is partly to mine that, is to figure out like, what is that secret, remarkable, amazing thing about them, that interest or that skill. And it might not be what we want it to be right now, but be prepared for this to be a process, right? And it's like, if they're amazing, I worked with a boy who's amazing he was tagging trains, so he is spray painting trains. It is a felony, but he was amazing. He was amazing at it. So they realized, okay, we have an artist on our hands. How do we want him to express himself? Instead of just shutting him down and saying, you can't do that, that's against the law, which fine, you get to say that. But you also have to recognize, there's a skill woven in here that is really impressive. Let's run with that. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, let's use this because I think this is the perfect entry point to say, hello, Judy, welcome. Judy has written many books on, wonderful ways to love our children and our stepchildren. And yeah, Judy, I know you just kind of popped in late, but I bet you have some great things to add at this moment about this.
Well, I need a child right now to help me with my technology. I don't have any children because I just can see my eyes. Is that all you see?
You know what? If you just turn your whatever your device is a little bit downward, there you go. You didn't need a child. You just
you're kind of a child, aren't you?
If 60 is a child, certainly, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're a child. I just turned 80.
So, Judy, obviously what we've sort of launched right into connection, and that's your forte.
You launched right into what?
Connection. How to connect.
Oh, how to connect with your child. Yeah.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, I think that when I used to work a lot with families and consult with families, I still consult, but I don't see children anymore, or the families as a unit. I just see parents. And when I first see the parents and they tell me what their story is, I tell them that in full disclosure, I have to tell you in full disclosure that I'm always on the side of the child. So anything that you have to say, and I add, but I'm always on your side too, because if I'm on the side of the child, that means I'm on the side of you. Because parents, children have so much to teach us. I believe that children show us more the ways of the heart and the things that we have forgotten, and that our job is to learn the ways of the heart, which means hearing what our children have to say, because our children don't always have the words, and we don't have the words either, and the culture is changing so quickly. So I think when I came in, Brenda was telling about I didn't even know she was a stepmother. She hasn't even told me that.
I'm sneaky that way.
I like to know everybody's business. That's the business I'm in, knowing everyone's business. So that is what I believe, is that once you have a child, you're no longer the same person, and you'll never be the same person again. And you'll never be the same person. And once you have, you bring that little baby home, and you think you wanted that little baby, and you bring that baby home, and immediately your life is interrupted big time. And you don't get any more sleep, and you can't take a shower, and all of that. And the husbands and wives are starting kind of being snarky to each other. This is what happens, and this continues. Wow. Unless you learn how to, yes, we want to love our children, but we also have to learn how to love ourselves. And there are parts in us that are damaged. And I don't even want to say damaged, but there are parts of inside of ourselves that we need to be more open and more flexible. That's what children teach you. And they are out to teach you how to be open and how to be flexible. And they will win. So I say, don't ever really get in an argument with your child. You could have a conversation, I don't believe in yelling at children, and I don't believe in hitting children, and I don't believe husbands and wives should yell at each other and hit each other. But guess what? Goes on a lot.
Judy, thank you.
So it
And I
keeps me,
think
it's a lot. You know, it keeps me working. It's good for business if they want to yell and hit each other.
oh,
It's
Judy,
good for business. It's
Come
good for my
on.
business. Yeah, yeah. So that's what I have to say.
and by the way,
Can I request that you have a lot less business?
and also, Judy, your
Yeah.
camera's perfect right now. I just want you to know that, so you don't feel
Okay.
like you need to do anything. You're perfect.
Okay. All right.
And right before you came in, I want to circle back to this because I think what you just said connects to what John was saying right before you joined us, which was that it takes energy and it takes time, and that parents, right? You were speaking, John, about these weren't your words, but we kind of got to step up, right? Like if we want, and this is what you and I were talking about before, if we want our children to really feel safe and to feel loved and to feel like they're able to be in a world with hope, we got to step up. So I'd like to throw that back to you if you want to continue.
Yeah.
I
First
think
of all,
I want to say that I think John read my book.
of course I did too.
Okay. I agree with everything you say.
This isn't all my wisdom. This I literally will echo every single word you say. Like,
Okay.
literally,
I believe it. Yeah.
verbatim, and I totally agree with you. And I love the idea that connection between parent and child is the vehicle for healing and for growth and for everything. And I see in families, and I'm kind of curious whether you do as well, that kind of I can feel, because I work with full families. In this room I'm in now, I will later today have 6 people in here, right?
Wow.
And I can feel how the pain trickles down the family tree, right? And parents can deliver that without, if they're not aware and they're not attending to it, they can deliver their pain directly to their children, and you feel like, oh wow, it's going to be another 25 or 30 years before another therapist in another lifetime is going to be able to get to this family and create some degree of healing. But there's also an opportunity to do that now, and I always think about that. Like that's part of, I think, why we write, right? Is to like intervene in the pain of a family that might go back generations and generations and say, okay, I think we can make, with some insight and some awareness and attention and love, we can get somewhere now.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what? Many parents don't know how to identify their own pain and their own feelings. So how can they possibly teach that to their child?
Right. No, that's the tricky part, right? Is to get to those parents, and through our books, through the Mango catalog, they learn. Right? They learn to recognize that, oh, my anger or my frustration or my my upset with the world at large, it has something to do with just something going on internally here. And if I can just identify that and make peace with that somehow, which is a mighty, mighty task, I recognize, then maybe we can stop the process, right? Stop that negative process and create something new, right? Where we learn from our kids, which I totally agree with you. We have no option but to learn from our kids now. The world's moving so fast, and they know things we don't know about how the world works. Like the technology we're working on now, if we had a 17-year-old in here, they'd have set us all up perfectly before we even got started.
Yeah.
Well, and I would just like to take this moment, because it feels appropriate, to thank you, all 3 of you, for spending this time. Like, I know you're all very busy people. You could be doing a lot of things, but it's also through conversations like this, right? Because my hope is people who are listening now or in the replays down the road, that this is for parents, right? I mean, we're talking about what our children need and what children in our lives need, but really we're also talking to parents. And I know for a fact that you, both Judy and John and Brenda, you've all greatly changed me and brought so much awareness into my life. And I think that this is, thank you, Brenda, for Mango Publishing.
Amen to that. Yes.
And Brenda, this might be a good time if you want. I love when you kind of jump in and share a little bit of that bigger perspective for you. I mean, you've brought these two people to us, and I'd love to hear, why do you feel this topic and right now?
Well, I'll circle back to that in a minute because I feel called to share that I was at a writers conference, the San Francisco Writers Conference, and it's 4.5 days. And I think I got like 200 pitches from people about books, which was, which was great. Although like my brain was a little tired. But on the very last day, they asked me to like be a part of like the Teen Writers Summit, and it was teens talking to publishers and agents and everything about like their writing projects. And so I was talking to from like 12-year-olds to like 17-year-olds about their writing projects, and like I was thunderstruck. I mean, like there were great ideas. I mean, there was one boy where I think he was probably like 16, and he had a science fiction Save the Planet. Many of the themes were Save the Planet. But anyway, he had like, and I was literally like writing down, please contact this agent, please contact that agent. You can tell them that I recommended. I mean, that like the purity of their energy and their ideas. Like I was like, I mean, afterwards, I actually had to have a little pride because I was so moved by it. And like I was just, and like I've always sort of thought that like the children are our future, right? I mean,
Mhm.
yeah. And so I actually like, I think I'd been like, I was a little worn down by talking to the adults, but like on that last day where I was like taking pitches from teen writers, I thought, you know what? We've got a chance because there's kids that are like brilliant and like so caring and like so wise, and I just felt like lit up by their energy and their ideas. I mean,
Mhm.
like, so I was talking to somebody about that today, and like, I want to find a way for Mango to like publish some teens, which I never really thought about before until I was pitched by the teens. And like, I thought, wow, like there's a
Yeah.
lot of brilliant ideas, and like, get them early, right? But, but
Yeah.
like back to your idea, I would actually say that like, and I'm deadly serious about this. It was the book Wonderful Ways to Love a Child that made me understand the importance of publishing parenting books.
Wow.
Honestly, I mean, it's like Wonderful Ways to Love a Child is like, sounds very simple. There's like really deep wisdom, and there's a purity to that too. And like it was fantastically successful. I mean, I would say it's a classic parenting book. And then the spin-offs from it as well, including Wonderful Ways to Love a Teen. But in any case though, like that really, it was Mary Jane Ryan who was like the publisher of Canary. I think that like she like saw that idea and like, worked with Judy to make it happen. And then here we are like 25 years later or something like that. But like that, I really understood like parenting books are essential because like, there's no degree in like how to be a good parent. I mean, you don't have to you can get a driver's license, but like to be a parent, you just like have a baby and there you are. Like, and like maybe you're lucky to have like a grandmother or something that can tell you how to do it. But otherwise, most people like have to talk to their friends or parenting books. So I view them as like essential, very, very important because again, it's helping the future.
Yes, yes.
Go, Brenda.
I know. Oh, Brenda. I know. And I saw, John, I saw you nodding and nodding and nodding when she was talking about the ideas and the enthusiasm of teens.
I get to do that for a living, Brenda. Like, so I have this luxury, right, of sitting across from teens, and and they're here for a reason, right? There's some things not working perfectly, or they're not fitting the template of the family perfectly, or whatever it is. So we're working through something. but every hour my jaw drops in some way with the brilliance of a teen. And, and you don't have to Brenda's point, you don't have to spend much time with a teenager to recognize like, oh my gosh, like you are absolutely brilliant in this way, or you're just super kind, or you're super thoughtful. Teens are more empathic than they've ever been before. I talk a lot about how when we were kids, and I mean this sincerely, I was talking to my best friend growing up about this over the weekend. Our concerns were, what's happening tonight? Are we going out? Are we doing anything? Are we doing anything fun? Does this girl like me? Are we doing anything this weekend? It was kind of like we were very egocentric. This was a normal developmental way to be. Our kids now, because they have access to all the things, all the data, they have this well of empathy that I think we didn't have, right? So I have kids in here talking like you were talking about a moment ago about like the war in the Ukraine, or like what's going on in Gaza and what can we do about this? They are engaged and they care, and they can't stand that people are suffering. They're using TikTok to make videos for other kids who are suffering from depression or anxiety. So they're not always doing that job of developing, but they're doing this other really amazing job of being empathic to each other and to other people. And you can't sit across from a teenager for very long without gaining some hope. So, my goal is to switch that around and also instill some hope in them, because they don't know how much hope they carry. You know what I mean? And how
Yes.
how gifted they are in what they're going to bring to the world. They can't see, they don't have vision for that.
And it makes me think, when you're saying that, John, that it's like, because they have such an increased capacity for empathy, that also probably complicates their whole emotional lives to a degree that like I grew up like you did. It's like the things we were worried about, nowhere near what they are. So maybe we could talk about that then. It's like, how do we, I know you both talk a lot about resilience in your work. Like, yeah, how do we foster emotional resilience, or how they can hold so much? Judy, do you want to jump in?
I think it's simple, difficult, but simple.
Yeah.
I agree with John that parents are so, and this way I believe that the parents that I see and work with are swamped in their own lives. Their own lives are not really satisfying. It doesn't matter. I mean, I live in a tech town, and these people, and I think of them as babies. I don't consider them adults when they come to see me, even though they are making a great deal of money. So, but that leads to all kinds of things, and their wives. I mean, a lot of them don't know how to relate to a woman in the first place. The tech guys, they do not know how to talk to a woman. And the tech people are so pressured to work that they just want everything to run smoothly. And that is what they are expected to do at work. There's a problem that's at work, so they're expected to make it run smoothly, and then they're expected to create something better. And that's how they keep their job. So that is kind of how and that's the metaphor I use when I am consulting with the parents, because I see sometimes some kids who are in very serious trouble. So I consult with the parents, and it's humiliating to the parents. But if they're going to save their child and they're going to save themselves, they have to make some big changes. So I think we have to talk turkey. That's why I'm hoping that we get a real inspiring president. And I don't know if we are going to, but we need inspiration. And I see that when I see my family, the people that I see, I don't do much of it anymore because I find it exhausting. So I'm very happy that there's somebody, John, because I looked at your book and I said, okay, this is somebody I can support. This is kind of somebody that can be a resource, because I think it's very exhausting work. It really is. And I'm writing a book called You Can't Flunk Doodling. That's where I'm at. So, but listen. So the parents, we can't be hard on parents either, because they are also really suffering. So we all need someone who believes in us and sees who we are. And as I find that when I consider myself that I have to entertain all these people. These people need entertaining. They need to know how to laugh. They need to know how to cry. They don't know how to do it. So that was my idea about connection. People, as far as I'm concerned, are very isolated and longing, not just around parenting, but longing for connection. And how do we do it? And so I think we need an inspiring leader that can talk in ways that speak to, you know what I said the other day, and I thought this was absolutely brilliant. I said this to some parents. I said, this is all you've been giving me is AI, artificial intelligence, that you have learned, has been put in your brain. That I'm not interested in any AI. I'm only interested in from here. This is where your ultimate wisdom comes.
Heart wisdom.
Huh?
I said heart wisdom.
Yeah. Because but this is true. This is true. We have to find what our own wisdom is, because inside of all of us, we have the answers. We know what the answers are, but we're so used to listening to someone else.
I wanted to interject real quickly. I'm working with possibly going to publish, developing like a concept with a therapist who lives in San Francisco, and like many of their clients are parents that work at like Google and not TikTok, but like Google and Facebook, and then also Twitter. I still call it Twitter. And like, especially the people at Twitter, but like she told me that many of her clients, and they're young people, young men and young women, like they're probably in their 20s and at most like 30s, they have panic attacks because they have so much pressure from work. That it's heartbreaking, because like panic attacks are really scary. I mean, you feel like you can't breathe, like you feel like you're going to die because you can't breathe. It's all from the stress and pressure of work. And like, imagine like that, like your parent, like you're a kid and your parent is like going through that, like daily panic attacks, multiple panic attacks a day, just to get through a day of work. Do you have clients, John, that like have parents that are under pressure, that like barely have time for that kids?
Oh yeah. I mean, just like Judy was saying, so many parents are overextended and almost out of necessity in their minds have to take life super, super seriously. And as a result, I've worked with a lot of parents who have high anxiety, so often to the point of panic attacks. And I know what that feels like. I've had those myself, and they are awful. It is a terrible physical sensation. And I think, Judy, you touched on like some of the most important elements of how to navigate that. And part of it is to bring an element of lightness, right? That heart wisdom, but also that lightness and joy, right? Into a family. And a lot of kids will tell me, up until the time I was about 10, 11, 12, my parents, they were my buddies. Like we were close, we would play and we would have fun. And then suddenly I think they felt like they had to police me because I have to get into Yale, or I have to make this team, or I have to be, in the top 5 of my class. And suddenly now we have this completely different dynamic, kind of suddenly. And there's a lot of infrastructure saying, oh, we should be tracking our kids and paying attention to what they're doing and seeing where they are and what their grade point average is right now today. And, and reading about how they get into the very best colleges and why. And it takes all the play away, all the joy away. So we're not modeling that. We're not carrying that. We're not feeling it. All we're feeling is pressure. And I can tell you that a generation lower now, the 14 or 15-year-olds already are feeling that pressure. And when we tell them, oh, we're preparing you for college, these are the best years of your life, a lot of kids are like, it doesn't feel that way. Like, it really doesn't feel very joyful.
Well, and you know, this reminds me, I was actually going to start this panel with a quote from Judy's book. Judy, if you don't mind,
Oh,
I love this from Wonderful Ways to Love a Child, because to me, this is what felt like it was sort of the foundation of what we're talking about. She said, I've come to see that the most important part of parenting is the quality of the relationship between you and your children, how it feels to be together. And Judy, I loved that you just like, boom, put that out there, because as a parent myself, I think to me, and I think you even went on to say that it's like, what do we remember like in our lives? It's how we feel when we're with people. And I feel like that's what you two are saying right now.
yeah. Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
You said it, Judy.
That's it.
Well, right. And I think the reason I felt like I was going to start this panel with that is because it's like, you know, in some ways, like we're all saying, it's complicated, but it's simple too, in the fact, I mean, it's not a simple thing to be present or to be joyful. And yet it is in another way. Like in some ways, if we're coming from that place of, and I know for myself, I was fortunate enough to just have like a really fun child, like who really loved laughter, and but to create that feeling creates a certain trust, I think. I don't know. I'd love to hear more about that from you guys.
What feeling?
The feeling that you're in something together, that the most important thing is how you feel together. And if your children know that it's not, are they going to get into Yale? Are they going to succeed over here? I feel like maybe oh, there you are, Judy. Welcome back. Yeah, the focus on being together and how it feels rather than these success markers, for instance.
Yeah.
What John was talking about.
All of the above, really, because if it feels good to be together, and you can hear what your children are saying, then you have a way in to help them succeed in whatever they want to succeed in. And I was thinking, as you were talking about Yale, you were saying this, I remember a family that I had, and the kid was very, I saw them for quite a while. And the kid, I saw him for a long time. As a matter of fact, I still see the kid. And I was just thinking that I still see the kid, and he's 34. But he was very smart. He was very timid. He had lots of anxiety, and he was getting really good grades. And he wanted to go to a specific school, but he couldn't fill out the paperwork. Okay, he couldn't fill it out. It made him too anxious. So you know what I did? And if you ever repeat this, I will say you made it up. I'll say Sherry got confused. Okay. I told the mother and the father they should fill the paperwork out for him. And they said, because this was against their principles. I said, hey, your kid is a great kid and you know it, okay? But sitting and talk therapy is not going to help him. It's not going to help him because he doesn't really want to talk about therapy. I did teach him how to make chocolate chip cookies, and that was a good session. He liked that because he didn't have to say anything. But anyway, and we all knew that he could learn whatever he wanted, because he had excellent grades. He had the ability to learn. He had the ability to write papers, all the things they were worried about. But he didn't have the ability because he was so afraid he wouldn't get accepted in this school. And that would be a humiliation to him because he had told people he was going to this one school. And so they sat with him, and they only asked him to just kind of sit in the room as they were filling it out. And so he did not want to sit next to the computer. So they let him sit over in some other place, but they sat with the room, and the mother and father, squabbled about as they filled out the paperwork. It was good.
I love that story. I love everything about that story because you're describing this like great. First of all, you're right. Like I think anybody in either of our fields would say, "Oh no, 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 no! Don't do that. Make them do this and right themselves." But what your story tells me, and I think what you're telling us is what I always hope for in the families I work with, that there's this alliance, right? Too often there's this division, and here we've got this alliance. Okay, we'll do this, and we'll do our part, and you do your part, and we'll work our strengths, and so we're
Wow.
collaborators, and in that way, we can have this really loving relationship all
Yeah.
the way, not just today, but like
Right.
20 years from now. Like we
Right.
forget that parenting doesn't end at 18 or
Yeah.
19, that this is a life sentence in the best way.
Mhm.
And so to bend the rules a little bit sometimes is the best thing I think you can do as a parent. First of all, I think it gives your kids the opportunity to see you in a way they never would otherwise. Like, oh, you're actually really on my team here. You really
Oh,
want me to win, right? You're
Yeah.
not just trying to catch me here.
Yeah.
How great is that, right?
Yeah.
So all the messaging in there is super powerful and and way more important than following the rules. And I assume he went to that school and did really well. Yeah.
Very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
and I
He's
know
good.
there's something in what you're all talking about, because I feel like I could just burst into tears, right? Because I think that what you're pointing to underneath this is that, yeah, what that us against them feeling that I know so many kids have, and it's not intentional, of course, on the parents' part at all, but what you're speaking about when you use the word alliance, or we're all on the same team, we're in this together, that to me is just like, it's so beautiful, and supports everyone in the family.
Yeah, like The Men in the Boat. Have you seen that movie?
Yes,
Do you have?
yes,
Huh?
yes. I loved that book.
Uh,
Mhm.
Have you seen the movie?
The Boys in the Boat. Yes.
Yeah, The Boys in the Boat. Oh, you should
Mhm.
see that, John. You got to go see it.
I will see it. I read. I did not finish the book. I will admit that to you now. I can't remember why because I was enjoying it.
Okay. Yeah, you got to go see it, John.
Okay, I promise you, I will.
Okay. All right.
So I just happened to glance at the time, and I know,
Okay.
unfortunately, we got started a little late, but we have to get off in about 7 minutes. And I'm just curious. We'll start with John, and then maybe go to Judy, and then Brenda. Are there things we haven't covered that you just feel like, oh, I feel like we need to get this out here?
There's a point I want to punctuate that I think we're circling around here, and that is that it is hard to be a parent. I think Judy, you're saying that. I think Brenda, you're saying that as well. I think you are too, Sherry. And so I think we need to afford parents all the grace, right? Like they've parented through a pandemic, they're parenting through a time where they're trying to navigate technology and all sorts of drugs and all sorts of other things that we didn't grow up with, we're not that familiar with. It's really, really difficult. So we need to extend grace to parents when we talk to them, and and that the emotional bank account they have with their kids can be a very forgiving thing if they are connected with them, right?
Mhm.
Um, and Sherry, there's something I want to address that you said. You said something along the lines of, like, hey, I got lucky. I have this easy kid, right? So I grew up with this fun, easy kid. I'm going to challenge you ever so slightly and suggest that maybe you didn't get lucky. Maybe you created an atmosphere where the stress level was maybe not all the way at rock bottom, but navigable, right? Like something where we're just enough where we can get where we need to go, but also we have these connections, and you can come and talk to me, and we're going to be playful. And so I think we have to take credit for our parenting as well, right? We're by and large, the people who read these books and who listen to us, they're really good parents. They're really, if you're listening to this, you're probably really, really making an effort to do the very best you can. I think if you're in that range, in that zone, and you're listening, things are going to work out. Because if you think broadly, we worry so much as parents. I'm a parent myself, and my son is 28, and still I'm worried about him, at times. But big picture, things usually work out pretty well. So if we can kind of relax into that and trust that our kids are going to find their way. And if we can be allies to them, like Judy, your family that you described, then we get where we need to go. And it's not going to go perfectly, nor should it. It's not that interesting to go perfectly. It's a way better story for a family when things go sideways a bunch of times, because then you've got stories to tell and you've got like this rich
Oh,
around your family that is worthwhile, that that will carry through generations too. We don't remember the perfect stuff. We remember when things went haywire, right? We remember the Christmas that went sideways, not the one that was perfect. So I just want to give people the grace that perfection, not that interesting, not that fun. Let things happen the way they do.
oh, beautiful. Thank you. Judy, what about you? What do you want to leave us with?
I told my daughter when she was, I don't know, it was in junior high or high school. I don't really remember when, but she was complaining about something and she was crying or something about schoolwork or whatever. And I said, I know that you can learn anything you need to. I'm not worried about your schoolwork. I know that you can learn it. But I said, you have one job as far as I'm concerned. Your job is to take the best of me, improve on it, and become better, because that's evolution. That's evolution. And today, she's 45 now, and sometimes she says, oh, Mom, I'm sorry, I blah, 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 yeah, 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 or whatever. And I say, you don't have to, there's nothing you have to do for me anymore. You've already done everything. You've taken the best of me, and she's better than me. She is definitely better than me.
Aww.
She has taken everything and become better. So I'm very, very proud of that.
Didn't we get to meet your beautiful daughter about a year ago with us?
Yeah.
She came on with us. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking we should have had her on here about her book that she wrote for teen girls, because it's an extremely beautiful book.
Wow, we'll have her back for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Brenda? Did you want to leave us with anything that's top of mind?
What's top of mind for me is that Sherry seems to be doing Mango, and it's in a way it is for the children of parents, because it's the is it okay for us to announce it, Sherry?
Sure, of course.
Yeah. So it's the love list of a lifetime, and what it is like a death planner, which I know sounds rather shocking, but what it is like all your hopes and wishes, and then things like like your bank account passwords and things like that. And it's to make it's like for after you're gone, and it's to make things really easy for your loved ones. And of course, because it's Sherry Richert Belul, it has like that extra dash of love throughout it. And
that sounds nice.
Yeah. And so I'm just all of Mango is like very excited about it, and it'll be like 2025. But I was just sort of thinking about that, and how like that is it's for parents to leave to their children, to their loved ones. So it like sort of is a thread in this conversation. It's because it's an act of thoughtfulness and like good organization, but also big love to do that.
Brenda, thank you. And just to add to that, because I do think it's related in that, to me, that book is also about not being afraid to face the hard things. Like, to me, that's a really big piece of a death planner. And I feel like as parents that it, like we've all been talking, there's so many hard things, but it's like to not be afraid of that and to come from a place of presence and love and connection, which we've all been talking about. Like, to me, that is the gift for our children. That is it.
So John and Judy, get ready to be asked for endorsements down there.
Well, we're working with a lot of the between generation where literally their parents pass away, either unexpectedly or expectedly, and they have no idea where are the accounts, what are their wishes, what do they want, what are their stories, what an amazing gift. That's really, really a great idea.
Oh,
yeah, good.
I loved this conversation. Thank you. And again, just I know how busy all of you are, and I feel like this was so important. And I'll do my best to spread the replay and make sure that people get to see this. And to end with, John, what we were saying, there's so much hope. There's so much hope, and that we can all be a part of bringing that, to our children and to ourselves. So thank you for being here, John and Judy and Brenda. And I'm so grateful to all of you.
Thank you for having us.
Good to talk
Thank
with you all.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Nice to meet you, John.
Nice to meet you, Judy.